Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cassie Rose, and I created this channel to give you the tools that you need to pursue your passion. And today we're going to be talking about the question, are motivation and inspiration the same thing? And I want to talk about this because I saw it in a lot of Facebook groups and forums and online different places and on YouTube. This was a recently searched question in a really high volume, so I wanted to dive deeper into it and see how this topic affects us as passionate and passionate and productive people. So before we get started, go ahead and click subscribe below and turn on your notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And click like if this is an interesting topic to you, if you want to have more frequently asked questions from the internet answered on my channel. So let's go ahead and get into it. So as we get into this, I just kind of want to have a conversation about the topic because I did some research on it, and my first inclination when I heard this question, when I saw it online, was, well, of course they're different. Otherwise they'd be the same word. But why are they different, and why are people getting confused about their similarities? So I wanted to kind of just talk about it more casually because I've got my iPad here. I have some information that I found on the topic, and I just want to kind of go through what I found and see how it applies to living out your passion and being productive and getting toward your goals. So the first thing that I looked at was, what is motivation? What's the definition of motivation? And motivation is defined as the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. This was pretty straightforward to me, but motivation is concrete, it's definable. It is your reason for why you're doing something. Motivation is your internal guide saying, this is why we're making these certain decisions. This is why I am doing this. Your motivation is your reasoning behind actions or reactions or whatever you're doing. Motivation is a noun, and it is an internal trigger or response. It's not necessarily a reactive type of noun. It's not based out of emotion. It's based out of reasoning, really. Motivation is your reasoning for doing something, so it's very logical. Motivation isn't based on circumstances. It is a chosen reason. Now, that reason may have arisen through circumstances. You may have been in a particular situation or upbringing that caused you to really formulate this reasoning inside of you, and it may have occurred naturally, but it is a concrete and tangible reason behind why you do what you do. It's a predetermined meaning behind your chosen course of action. And I think that word predetermined is really the most important thing when we think about motivation, because you're not living in response to all of the things happening around you when you're motivated. When you are motivated, you're living in response to a predetermined reason. So personally, for me and for my company, Dwen-Day, I have established core values for my business. I've established that we do things because we love and want to serve people. We do things to breed clarity in all situations. If you go to our website, you can see all of our core values on our mission page. And these are predetermined reasons that came out of desires that I had to see certain goals come to fruition. But they were predetermined before I started acting out business plans, before I started, redoing YouTube videos, before I started this blog, before I started my Instagram. I had predetermined reasons behind everything that I was doing, and they were my motivation. So those predetermined reasons really fuel us. Yeah. So when I think about motivation, I really think of my reason for getting out of bed in the morning. And this is really common when people want to start living a more intentional life. If you want to wake up at 5 a.m, you could do it for a few days just because your alarm goes off and you force yourself to get out of bed. But after that point, you really need a deeper reason for why you're doing what you're doing. So when you're finding your motivation and cultivating that, it helps you to make all of those decisions. Well, I don't get up at 5 a.m. because I just want to be up at that time. I get up because I want to write out scripts for my YouTube videos. I want to create content for my Instagram. I want to be in contact with people around the world that are commenting on my content so that I can actually build relationships with them. So when I wake up at 5 a.m, it's not just for the sake of being awake longer during the day. That chunk of time before the rest of the world is awake is my time to really pursue those things that I'm trying to accomplish. So that's what I see motivation as. And this is where kind of the difference comes between motivation and inspiration. Motivation is tangible, concrete, it's your reasoning, it's predetermined. Now, what is inspiration? Inspiration is defined as the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. So inspiration is more of a process, as it's saying. It's not a noun. It's kind of more active than that. Sorry, and I don't really have all the English terminology, but it's more free-flowing, less tangible. Inspiration is a process. Now, it can be a noun. This person is my inspiration. But if you're in the process of inspiration, it's more of a experience almost. And so when you're mentally stimulated to do or feel something, this inspiration sparks something in you and you just have to respond to it. Now, I've experienced both these things, motivation and inspiration, at different times. And I'll tell you one thing, they are both necessary parts of life, but they are very different. When I think of inspiration, I think of the feeling or emotion in a situation. When I make music, I am inspired by my band. When I'm with other people and they're making music with me, I am inspired by the music that they create and by their creativity, and it draws something creative out of me. That is where I find my inspiration. I really thrive off of other people's contributions to situations. I like listening to other people and reacting to them. That's where I find my inspiration. That's not where I find motivation. I don't find motivation from other people being creative. That's not my reason for doing anything. But if I see another person be creative and maybe see their motivation in life, I can use that inspiration to craft my personal reason behind doing something or acting in a certain way. It doesn't mean that inspiration isn't tangible, and it doesn't mean that it's not necessary for creating motivation, but what it means is that it's more situational or circumstantial. Depending on what's happening in your life, your inspiration will be different in different seasons. With different friend groups, with different jobs, with different environments, your inspiration is going to adapt and change to what is happening around you. Whereas motivation doesn't change because it's really set in a deeper meaning for your life. Motivation is based in a all-encompassing reason that can flow between situations, and it's not stuck to this season right here and now. So inspiration is momentary, but it can change and adapt to look different in different seasons. Inspiration is a process. It usually begins with a spark, and then it needs to be chased. So that's where inspiration is different from motivation, because when you have it, you want to grab onto it and run with it so that you can get the most out of that inspiration, out of that situation or that thing that's really inspiring you in that moment. So how do these things relate? We've seen how they're different. We've seen the difference between motivation and inspiration, but how do they play a role together in allowing us to pursue our passions and be productive in life? And I think that that's the big key, is how do they help us to be more productive in this season that we're in right now? Well, what I have seen is that inspiration can help form your motivation. Inspiration can give you seeds in your life that help you to determine what your motivation really is. And for me personally, I'm inspired by other people. I'm extremely extroverted. I love being around people, and I've found that as I've started my business, the most motivating situations are the ones where I'm with other people, hearing their ideas and their creativities, and we're creating a conducive creative environment together. But inspiration kind of started before that. The inspiration for that motivation came from little situations where I just saw other people working, where I was on YouTube and I was watching people, seeing how they formulate their business plan, how they create their work environment and their teams. And that was what really inspired me to do that in my business myself. But now, currently, it is a motivation in my life that everything that I would do edifies someone else and puts them up in a place where they can pursue their passion and their dream. And that motivation is what helped me establish the way that I'm going to do my business. So inspiration can really help you formulate your motivation. It can help you create what your internal reasoning is based on those moments of spark, those moments where you're just lit on fire and you can see something so clearly and you want it. The second way that motivation and inspiration relate is that motivation can be supported by inspiration. The last thing that I said is that inspiration creates motivation. That's kind of in the beginning stages. But what if you're later on in life and you have your motivation You kind of have your reasoning and your core values and your purpose behind doing what you do. Sometimes motivation can get really mundane. Sometimes we see the same words that we have as our mantra and we look at them for our entire lives, and then suddenly you think, well, it's just, I'm not feeling it anymore, because motivation isn't a feeling. It's not. It's something that you need to cultivate and protect and stimulate. And inspiration can stimulate motivation, which is why we need to constantly be seeking out inspiration as we're going through our lives. That doesn't mean that we change our motivation, but we want to be in situations that spark that feeling or emotion of fervor. Now, it's not sustainable. It's not going to be sustainable to live off of inspiration. That's why we need that reasoning that we can really thrive on. But inspiration can bring that spark back when you've gotten into a place that's a bit of a lull. Currently, an example of this is in my life right now. I'm on a 2-week break from work. So I have a 9-to-5 job. I'm a pastor and I work at a church, and I took 2 weeks off to be completely on vacation, and I took an entire week off of Dwen-Day and not working on this at all. And that break gave me time to be creative in other ways and kind of spark that inspiration in me in other situations. So I picked up a desk off of Facebook Marketplace and I completely refurbished it, and I loved it. It was a very fun process, sanding it down and staining it and painting it and getting hardware. I loved that, and I love creative situations like that. But as I was working on it, it made me think of what is my motivation in life. And one of the things that really motivates me is giving people space to do what they love. Usually I don't have space to do any of that remodeling stuff. I don't have space to work on furniture or remodeling or redesigning, because I have a full-time job that's well over 40 hours a week if I'm really, putting the pedal to the metal. And I have Dwen-Day, which is another like 30 hours a week that I work on my off time. I don't have time for those things. And so my motivation is deeply rooted in the fact that I want to help other people be able to do what they love full-time. I absolutely love my job, and I love Dwen-Day, but it's a lot to have yourself spread so thin. So that's my motivation, and this week it was sparked by being able to do something that I love so much. Motivation can be supported by inspiration, and that is why we regularly need to seek out inspiration in our daily life by doing things that we love, by doing things that are creative, that are completely outside the scope of our regular 9-to-5 job. The last way that motivation and inspiration relate is that they are both necessary parts to help you reach your goals in life. Regardless of if you're an analytical or intuitive or emotional person regularly, motivation, which is your decided reasoning for doing something, and inspiration, which is emotional or creative stimulation, both play a role in helping you achieve your goals and dreams in life. We are not meant to be one or the other. And I do know, according to personality tests and statistics and different things that we've seen, there are people who are more analytical, there are people who are more emotional. And I am 100% a part of this because I am a more emotional driven person, but I'm also in the Myers-Briggs and ESTJ, which, if you know what that is, it's extroverted, sensing, thinking, and judging. So I kind of have this emotional side of me for different reasoning things, but I'm also very straightforward in my approach. I think and I do what I think, and I don't really, sit and weigh all the options out. I just do what I think and I go with it. And I am a judger, which means I just judge a situation and act on it. So I have these parts of me, so I know people have one inclination over another. And you may think that defining your motivation and having that firm reasoning, if you're an analytical person, that this is going to be the most important thing for you, because that's how your brain operates. You think and you respond and you calculate, and that may be great for you. And you may think that for another person, being more inspired by things will allow them to get farther. But really, for any person, you need a balance of both of these. And for one, if you have a certain inclination, you may need to be really more intentional about stimulating the other. If you're naturally more logically motivated, then finding inspiration intentionally might not be the most natural thing to you. So you have to be really intentional in pursuing inspiration. But these are not based on one being emotional and one being logical. It's not like that. We are all well-rounded people who have emotional and logical sides to our brain. So we need to be able to look at both of these. And they're both necessary for stimulating the life that you want. And so if we look at this as as passionate and productive people, how do motivation and inspiration play a role in our lives? How do we use them to cultivate the life that we really want? This is why I chose this question that I saw everywhere to talk about on my channel, because I wanted to really define this. And for any person, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a business person, working a 9-to-5 job for someone else's dream, whatever it is that you're doing, really establishing a firm motivation and allowing inspiration to come in and fuel you is going to really help you to find meaning in your life and not live out your purpose, which I really don't believe in. I don't believe that we're shaped for one specific purpose, but rather doing this will help you to live on purpose. Every single day, living on purpose, knowing that you have these goals in life, you have a reasoning behind what you're doing, and you're going to act in accordance with that reasoning. If we're passionate and if we're productive, we want to see things come to pass. We want to see our goals be accomplished, and we can do that by really being intentional about cultivating motivation and inspiration in our lives so that we can reach those goals and actually be really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Any person can reach their goals in life as long as they are pursuing it with a motivation inside of them that cannot be shaken, something that is defined, that they can write on a piece of paper and stick on their mirror, stick on their forehead, stick on their car, wherever you want to read it. Write down that motivation that you have crafted for yourself based off of the things that you've experienced in your life, and then really define what inspires you, what situations, what activities and hobbies and people create inspiration so that you can regularly schedule those into your life. This is where it comes into play of being intentional with both of these things. We want to define our motivation and remind ourselves of it regularly. And we want to schedule inspiration into our calendar. You might think, how can I schedule inspiration? It comes at a whim, it is emotional, but no, you know the things that inspire you. I know that music and art and being active in nature inspire me. So if I want to stimulate inspiration in my life, I need to put those things on my calendar, because otherwise the day-to-day tasks are just going to drown them out. This is how we can use motivation and inspiration to create passionate productivity in our lives. And I hope that this was really helpful to you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below to let me know so that I can make more videos like this in the future. And if you haven't already, click subscribe and turn on the notification bells so that you can get notified every time I post a new video. I'd love to have you join the family here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.